initially booked my trip to Hong Kong, it was just some spot on the map to broaden my horizons. A place to visit, then check off the list. But I had no idea just what I was in for. Put simply, Hong Kong blew me away. You might be wondering, why? Well, settle in, because I'm about to tell you what I saw, did, and loved so dearly in Hong Kong. My first day in the city, I took a lengthy subway ride out to Lantau Island, where after a both enthralling and terrifying cable car ride, I arrived at Nong Piang, home to the Polin Monastery, the Tiantan Buddha, and, naturally, a slew of restaurants ready to capitalize off all the tourists. I first decided to go to the monastery and was greeted by some interesting friends. Turns out, wild dogs and cows live on the island, and the nuns are too nice to kick them out, so some just kind of chill here, which is, let's be honest, pretty cool. Polin is a Buddhist monastery, founded in 1906. Away from the megacity and the next island over, it's very serene out here, with beautiful architecture, gardens, and almost enough dragons. The thing that stood out to me, though, was the incense. Oh my god, the incense. There were your normal sticks of incense, certainly, and even some larger, medium-sized ones, all the way up to these 10-foot tall behemoths that had to be at least 2 feet in circumference. The Tiantan Buddha, one of the world's largest outdoor bronze Buddha statues, is an extension of the monastery, and can be seen from as far away as Macau on a bright day. The Buddha's hands are placed in the abaya position, an encouragement for one to cast off their fears, and he sits atop a lotus flower. 6 devas, 3 at each side, offer up gifts to him, each one symbolizing a trait necessary for achieving enlightenment. Theology aside, coming to the top for the view alone is worth it. Even with the mass of people, it was still strangely calm and beautiful. Plus, I got to try my first ever egg tart here, and I instantly fell in love. I think I ate almost 30 in the 6 days I was there, and I still want more. Once I got back to where I was staying around Tsim Sha Tsui, I walked along Victoria Harbor, saw a particularly awesome street performer, ate yet more snacks, yes, including egg tart, and watched the sunset. Victoria Harbor is really where Hong Kong began to steal my heart. The abundance of life, the city's skyline contrasting with the mountains and ocean in the background, the romantic atmosphere, the food, all of it culminated into a really beautiful scene. And it was only my first day here. On the second day of my travels, I went over on a day trip to Macau. I hopped onto the ferry for an hour-long journey. No idea what to expect when I got there, but dang, am I so glad that I went. When I disembarked, the first thing I did was get a ticket for a bus tour. It was $20 for an all-day tour to the city's largest landmarks, plus an audio guide and a return ride to the ferry, so it was definitely worth the money. After driving around and seeing some of the skyline, I hopped off near the historic city center, where a ton of cultural sites were. Considering that Macau is only 11.8 square miles large, there's a very dense concentration of history here. The first thing I noticed once I got off the bus was the tile patterning on the walkways. And it wasn't just a one-off either. Every place you walked had them. I made my way to St. Dominic's Square, got a snack or two. Portuguese egg tarts are actually quite different, so no scolding me. And there I took in the scenery. Somehow, it was in the bustling crowd that Macau's uniqueness hit me. It's a place very thoroughly Chinese, but also definitely retaining colonial influences. A city that's new and sparkling, but also very ancient. These things all blended together in beautiful harmony, not clashing or begging for attention, but there to be seen all the same. Mere steps later, I was at the ruins of St. Paul's Cathedral, built in 1602. Only the stone face remains, however, as the wooden portion burned down in a fire in 1835. Under the church is a museum for some of the art connected to the area, and the crypt where the remains of the martyrs are entombed. Literally right next door to the cathedral is the Mont Fort, the former military headquarters of Macau, and originally meant to keep pirates away. Atop it there is also the Museum of Macau, along with some really beautiful trees. From up here, you can almost see the whole of the peninsula, from the glittering casinos to the old section of the city. After another jaunt on the bus, I got off in the Old City, where people maintained a lifestyle more similar to what I had experienced on the mainland. Here, I went to Ama Temple. Ama Temple is a huge deal, and in so many ways. Right on the shoreline, this is thought to be where the Portuguese first disembarked in 1513, the first Europeans ever to make contact with China by sea. In the native language, the name of this temple is Ma Kok, and thus, the Portuguese called it Macau. The temple is dedicated to the goddess Mazu, goddess of the ocean and sailors. Other deities can be found here too, but most of the offering and libations are poured out for her. Even though I hadn't seen everything, I'd had a fun-filled day and eventually headed back to Hong Kong, where I ate my first xiaolongtangbao, or soup dumplings, and my first chashabao, which I am officially obsessed with. By day 3, I'd made friends with another woman staying in my hostel, and we got some warm breakfast drinks and egg waffles together. I tried the milk tea, and she got some Cocoa Pebbles hot chocolate thing, but the real star was Mammy Pancake. I've heard about Mammy Pancake for years now, and I finally found it. Even though it's a street food stand, this place has been Michelin recognized for 3 years in a row now. Here you see the mocha flavor I got, and the green tea chocolate chip. After this, my new friend and I went to peruse the local flower markets. I'd seen flower sellers before, but the sheer size here, especially in such a small city where every square foot is precious real estate, it just blew my mind. This wasn't just a street, or even an entire block, but multiple blocks of flowers, bamboos, succulents, and everything else, spilling out in an array of color and smells. We spent a good amount of the day just walking around and taking it all in, so it was already starting to get dark by the time I went on my next adventure, and that was to Victoria's Peak. I didn't record the journey up or down, because I took the bus and was incredibly carsick for what was essentially an hour of hellacious nausea each way, so my first tip is, just wait in line for the tram. But regardless, the view at the top was hands down one of the most stunning things I've ever seen, and a truly wonderful way to end the day. The next morning, I took the historic Star Ferry over to Hong Kong Island, where things had become very crowded since it was officially the first day of the Lunar New Year. People were generally just out and about, either enjoying the weather with one another or scrambling for last-minute New Year's items. Either way, the streets there were so beautiful, sloping and modern with antique touches. And sandwiched between all of that modernity lies Man Mo Temple, my first destination for the day. Now, I've been to a lot of temples during my time in Asia. Heck, even just China, but this one was very different from all the rest. It's my favorite one I've ever been in, to this day. It's done in the regional architectural style, And it's actually a Taoist temple, not a Buddhist one. It's dedicated to two primary deities, the god Man, who is the god of literature and studies, and the god Mo, the god of warcraft, though it has also allotted space for other deities as well. Here you can see people giving offerings to specific religious figures. For over a century now, students have come here before exams to pray for good luck from the god of literature and studies. As is to be expected, the temple was packed, being that it is New Year's, and people want to honor their ancestors, pray for good luck, and start the year out on the right foot. For those concerned for their dead, they will offer up special paper symbolic of money and have it burned so that it can then go to the spirit realm. This will make sure their deceased are provided for in the afterlife and keep the living from getting haunted by them. At Manmo, there were a ton of offerings and a ton of incense, and as much as I wanted to get pictures of everything, I too was compelled to put away my camera, light some incense, and pay my respects. It was already getting late by the time I left, so I went back to my hostel to nap in preparation for the New Year's parade. I woke up from that ready to fight a crowd of people probably larger than my entire hometown. That being said, people got creative. All in all, though, the whole crowd got to see some interesting acts, cute balloon floats, and just some generally weird performances. But by far, the lion and dragon dancers stole the entire show. I've seen a lion dance or two in my time, but never a dragon dance. It was beautiful and fun, and I have such an appreciation for what they do, because it's actually incredibly symbolic and incredibly physically demanding. The next day, my new friend and I toured around the ladies' market off of Tung Choi Street, which again was packed with people, but we expected as much. I'm not much of a shopper, however, so I didn't really buy anything other than a postcard and a magnet for souvenir's sake. I then went to the Hong Kong Museum of History because I'm famously a museum nerd, but it was closed for the holiday. So I decided to try out the local park instead. That was maybe the best spur-of-the-moment decision I made in Hong Kong. Why? Because Hong Kong Park was amazing. Not pretty nice or suitable, but absolutely amazing. At the entrance, there was a gushing water feature that you could stand under, little streams lined with flowers, and yet more fountains. There was also a sizable pond for koi and carp. There was an aviary you could walk through, a turtle pond, and even a waterfall. To see so much greenery in a megacity like this is to find a wonderfully peaceful spot among it all. After watching the Symphony of Lights, a nightly light show put on in Victoria Harbour, I went up to the Sky 100, the 100th floor of the International Commerce Centre, to get yet another view of Hong Kong. Not only can you see the famous parts of the city, but the residential areas as well. On my last day in Hong Kong, I went down to the harbour yet again and watched a wealth of street performers just do their thing. But my main reason for going there was to get a ticket for the Big Bus, a bus with 3 lines all over Hong Kong Island and Kowloon, which I figured would be a good way to see parts of the city I hadn't yet gotten the opportunity to go to. They had an audio guide with it as well, which was nice. After the Kowloon line, I took a ferry across to Hong Kong Island and got on the line to Stanley and Aberdeen. On our way, we toured the glitzy finance and commerce district and eventually made our way to the south side of the island, where you could see relatively undisturbed ocean, beaches full of people, and so on. I'll be honest, I didn't film much from here on out, choosing instead to be present in the moment. The sampan ride through the bay, eating at this giant floating restaurant, which is also very aptly named. It was all lovely, but sometimes it's good to remember to step back and just take it all in person, and not behind a lens. Hong Kong was amazing, and as soon as I returned home, I already wanted to go back. The modern and the classical harmonized together, the rich Chinese heritage paired with Western influences, the mouth-watering food and breathtaking sights, all of that and more has earned Hong Kong a special place in my heart, and I'm confident that I'll be going back again and again. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see other videos similar to this, and until next time.